Anna's days were a monotonous blur of dusting, scrubbing, and polishing. As a housekeeper working at the extravagant mansion of Daniel Weston, she often found herself lost in the pristine perfection of her surroundings. Everything gleamed and sparkled, a reflection of the wealth and power that Daniel carried with an effortless charm. It wasn't his money that intrigued her. It was the man himself. Daniel possessed a warmth in his smile that seemed to contradict the cold marble floors and towering glass walls of his home. His casual kindness, a simple thank you, a genuine inquiry about her well-being, had planted something within her. Something that grew stronger with each passing day. She couldn't deny it anymore. She was drawn to him. The way his presence seemed to fill every corner of the mansion, the way his laughter echoed softly from his study when he was on the phone with friends, the way his gaze sometimes lingered on her just a second too long. Today, as Anna wiped down the library's endless bookshelves, she caught a glimpse of him returning home earlier than usual. His hair was slightly tousled, his tie loosened as if he had escaped a particularly exhausting day. Their eyes met, and his tired expression shifted into a relaxed smile. "Hard at work, as always," Daniel remarked, leaning against the doorframe with an easy grace. Anna chuckled, her hands instinctively gripping the cloth she was using. "Someone has to keep this place from looking like a tornado ran through it." "I appreciate your dedication," he replied, his gaze warm and sincere. "You make this place feel lived in." His words sent a flutter through her chest. It was ridiculous, she knew, to let her emotions spiral over something so simple. Yet, Daniel had a way of making her feel noticed, seen, as though she was more than just the woman who kept his mansion in immaculate condition. She hesitated before responding, her voice a little shakier than she intended. "Well, it's nice to be appreciated." Daniel's gaze lingered, something unreadable flickering in his eyes before he straightened and offered her a friendly nod. "Take care, Anna. Don't work too hard." As he walked away, Anna's fingers trembled slightly. She couldn't help but feel his kindness went beyond mere politeness. And as much as she tried to fight it, her thoughts always seemed to return to him. To his warmth, his charm, and the gentle way he spoke her name. The seed of desire was planted, and it was growing far too fast. Perhaps it was madness. But the more Anna denied it, the stronger it became. She was falling for Daniel, and she didn't know how to stop. Days passed, but Anna couldn't shake the fluttering warmth that Daniel's words left behind. His compliments felt like delicate threads weaving their way into her heart, binding her thoughts to him even when she tried to focus on work. Her attraction to him was undeniable now, a relentless ache she could no longer ignore. One rainy evening, Anna found herself alone in the mansion's vast kitchen, brewing coffee to shake off the chill. The storm outside lashed against the windows, making the world beyond seem distant and dreamlike. Just as she poured herself a steaming cup, Daniel walked in, his hair slightly damp from the rain, his expression weary. "Couldn't sleep?" Anna asked, her voice tentative. He shook his head with a tired smile. "Long day. The rain makes everything feel heavier, doesn't it?" Anna nodded, her fingers tightening around her mug. "Would you like some coffee?" "Only if you'll join me," Daniel replied, his gaze softening as if the invitation held more meaning than the words themselves. They settled at the small kitchen table, the silence between them surprisingly comfortable. They spoke about trivial things at first, the unpredictable weather, the challenge of running a business, the books Anna had seen him reading. But as the conversation deepened, their barriers began to crumble. Daniel's voice grew wistful as he confessed, "People think wealth makes life easier. In some ways, it does. But it also builds walls. Everyone wants something from you, and it's hard to know who's genuine." Anna's gaze lowered, her heartbeat quickening. "I can't imagine what that's like. But I don't see you as just some rich man living in a fancy house. You're more than that." Their eyes met, the tension between them humming like a live wire. The moment stretched, fragile and thrilling. Anna's breath caught in her throat, the need to voice her feelings surging forward with reckless urgency. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I know this might be inappropriate, but I can't pretend anymore. I like you. I mean, I have feelings for you. And if this is crossing a line, I'm sorry, but I just needed you to know." Silence. heavy and expectant. Anna's chest tightened, her courage already faltering when Daniel reached across the table and took her hand in his. "Anna," he said, his tone gentle but firm. "You've done more for me than you realize. It's hard to find someone who sees past the surface. Who sees me. I've tried to ignore how I feel, but I can't anymore." His thumb brushed over her knuckles, sending a rush of warmth through her veins. They stared at each other, their emotions laid bare. There was no turning back now. "Maybe," Daniel continued, his smile returning, "we should stop pretending and see where this leads." The words filled Anna with a hope she had never dared to imagine. And as their hands remained entwined, the possibilities of what could be left her breathless. Anna's confession had shattered the boundaries between them. From that night forward, their connection deepened, unspoken feelings surfacing with each lingering glance, each gentle touch. What had begun as an innocent exchange of kindness had evolved into something neither of them could deny. One evening, Daniel invited her to dinner. Not the grand, formal kind that usually filled his social calendar, but something intimate and personal. He cooked, or at least tried to, resulting in a delicious disaster of burnt chicken but perfectly seasoned conversation. They laughed until their sides hurt, the air between them growing warmer and more inviting with every passing minute. After dinner, they moved to the cozy living room, the fireplace's amber glow dancing over their faces. Daniel poured 2 glasses of wine, handing one to Anna before sitting beside her on the plush leather couch. The world outside seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of them in a cocoon of quiet comfort. "Can I tell you something?" Daniel's voice was low, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Of course," Anna replied, her heart pounding. "I've been waiting for the right moment to say this, but maybe there's no perfect time. So, here it is." He took a deep breath. "I've fallen for you, Anna. Not just because you're kind or beautiful, but because you make me feel real. Like I'm not just some wealthy man trapped in a gilded cage. You see me. And I can't remember the last time someone truly did." The raw sincerity in his words stole her breath. Anna's eyes welled up with emotion, her fingers trembling as she reached for his hand. "Daniel, I feel the same way. I tried to deny it, told myself it was nothing more than a silly crush. But it's so much more than that. You've been kind to me, real with me. You've made me feel like I belong somewhere, and that's something I've craved for so long." Their eyes met, an unspoken agreement passing between them. Daniel's hand cradled her cheek, his touch impossibly gentle as if she might break under his fingertips. His lips brushed against hers, soft and hesitant, a question as much as a declaration. Anna responded without hesitation, closing the distance between them with a kiss that held every emotion she had been too afraid to voice. Passion, longing, and relief all tangled together in a moment of pure, unfiltered connection. When they parted, Daniel's forehead rested against hers, his breath warm against her skin. "Stay with me tonight," he whispered. "Not just as my housekeeper, but as someone who means everything." The night unfolded in a whirlwind of passion and tenderness, their barriers finally crumbling away. Wrapped in each other's arms, Anna felt a sense of belonging she hadn't known before. Daniel's touch was gentle, his words soft and reassuring, as if he, too, feared this was nothing but a fragile dream. As dawn broke, sunlight spilled through the curtains, painting golden patterns across the room. Anna stirred, nestled against Daniel's chest, his heartbeat a steady rhythm beneath her cheek. The reality of what had happened washed over her, bringing both warmth and a flutter of uncertainty. Sensing her wakefulness, Daniel tightened his embrace, his lips brushing lightly against her forehead. "Good morning," he whispered, his voice laced with a contentment that mirrored her own. She smiled, tracing lazy circles on his chest. "Good morning," she replied, feeling a rush of happiness she could hardly contain. They lay there in peaceful silence, neither wanting to break the tranquility. But eventually, reality crept in, and Anna hesitated before voicing her thoughts. "Daniel, what happens now?" He propped himself up on one elbow, his eyes searching hers. "We figure it out together," he said firmly. "I don't want last night to be just a moment. I want more than that. I want you." Anna's cheeks flushed, a sense of hope blooming within her. "I want that too," she admitted. But what about the differences between us? I'm just your housekeeper, and you have a world I don't belong to. Daniel shook his head, cupping her face with both hands. You belong with me. I don't care about status or wealth. None of that matters when it comes to how I feel about you. I've spent too long being lonely despite having everything I could ever want, except someone who truly sees me. You've given me that, Anna. His words melted her doubts, and she couldn't help but lean in to kiss him again, soft and lingering. The kiss was a promise, a commitment to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Over the next few weeks, their relationship grew stronger. Daniel made it clear to everyone in the household that Anna was not just the housekeeper anymore, she was the woman he loved. Some raised eyebrows, others whispered, but neither of them paid attention. They built a routine of sharing meals, taking evening walks through the garden, and talking late into the night. One evening, as they sat on the porch wrapped in a cozy blanket, Daniel looked at her with a seriousness that made her heart skip a beat. "Marry me," he said simply, his eyes unwavering. Anna's breath caught in her throat, overwhelmed by the sincerity in his voice. Tears of joy brimmed in her eyes as she nodded, unable to form words. Daniel pulled her into his arms, sealing the moment with a kiss that spoke of forever. They had found love against the odds, proving that sometimes the most unexpected connections could lead to the happiest endings.